All right, let's continue then that conversation. Joining us now to weigh in on the topic of the monarchs is expert and historian Advocate Sonwabile Mancotywa. Advocate, good evening. Good to have you with us. I want us to zoom in on this. Are we in line with the constitutional imperatives in terms of the recognition of traditional leadership as public authority?
I think Thabo, we are. I think that this discussion is totally misplaced. I've been listening to the gentleman because I read the document of GIWUSA. It's flawed even historically. That's one thing. But secondly, it's misplacing issues. On the issue of rusticity, on the history. I think they're also misplacing, for instance, or putting out of context rural rebellions like Muza, how they actually came. I mean, they are attributing rural rebellion to traditional leaders, whereas those people were hanged by the Pretoria regime, and they were fighting against, a team. As a result of which 87% of our land was taken away from African people and left with 13% of the barren land. And the whole issue of life and betterment schemes, which was part of parcel of taking away the land, which is really about the Land Act of 1913, which the late Governor Mbeki had to write later on as a peasant revolt. I think the documents that I've read, as presented by the gentleman, lack some historic background, which I think they must really do some work on that. But also, Thabo, this issue of resources, whenever we are looking at our own cultural identity, because at the center of this is our cultural identity as people. I don't know whether, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yes. This issue of using, resources. I mean, I've been leading the National Heritage Council in this country. Before that, I was the first MEC of Arts and Culture in the Eastern Cape. And every time we talk about our identity, the issue of resources, which actually is hiding the very, real issues that people don't want, transformation or undermining, identity when it comes to African identity, where the issue of place names. I don't know how many times we were told that don't change names. And again, it comes on an economic argument as against, the fundamental, issue of, cultural traditions, identity. Because that is some of this is identity. Thabo, the war that has engulfed Palestine, destroyed Palestine actually, by Israel, was not about material issues. It was about people, wanting affirmation in terms of their own identity, where people are saying our identity matters. That was not about material issues. Now, if you want to tell me now in this country that, because I've read the document at the end, they are saying abolish the traditional leadership. But again, making a mockery again of our own traditional, councils or traditional, the very same institution. I mean, remember Zimbabweans tried to ban this institution, and then later on they had to, resurrect it.
Yeah.
And then want to say that, I mean, as part of the document, they are saying...
So they're saying those traditional institutional, traditional councils, for example, on aspects relating to application of mining licenses and so on and so forth, those should be done only if they are stemming from community assemblies which have been democratically organized within the community structures, and not something that, of course, is dictated to by the traditional leadership itself.
Why reducing a matter of identity of African people into social clubs? I mean, the funding, for instance, of it, they are saying that use the money from social clubs to fund our traditional institutions. Where have we ever heard that? Which country actually would, leave such an important matter, of social cohesion and identity, more especially, in the hands of social clubs? That's why that I'm saying that I think this thing we must really look at this. I think that they're also barking a wrong tree. When it comes to the economy in this country, why don't you say ask yourself the question: if the macroeconomy of South Africa is not working, why are you looking at the wrong solutions? Because in this country we were used in just looking at becoming very myopic. At the center of this, are contradictions in society that are born out, of a situation where resources are skewed still towards, the white, monopoly in this country.
Yeah.
And why don't you look at the bakery approach than a slice of bread? Because at the center of the contradictions is how to ensure that there's a shift, in terms of actually addressing the economy, of this country. Because all these rents and cents that are being, looked at, and then juxtapose that, of course, against the identity. Because in this country still needs, a cultural revolution, because at the center of that actually is the traditional leadership and then our chiefs. And lastly, on that issue, I think they're also making a very wrong comparison between the apartheid government and this government. Because the apartheid government, actually, they use chiefs for political gains. And they're using the issue of Podasizao and how the former ruler, Kate Matanzima, was actually using traditional leaders. In fact, even installing some of them, wrongly for political reasons. This government has not done that. It's a wrong comparison. Instead, this government has actually affirmed the independence of the traditional leadership, and they've actually given them scope to operate the traditional leaders. I've not seen any, a time where government has said they want to install or get into or meddle themselves in the affairs of families.
All right.
You know how King Sabata actually left this country.
Let's leave
he
it
left
there.
it because all of that. So I'm therefore saying that let's have let's not present under-researched documents and also bastardize traditional leaders and leave them. Britain, for instance, has got that, and everybody then only us must not have our own identity. It is wrong.
Let's leave it there. Advocate Sonwabile Mancotywa, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on, heritage expert and historian.